Last hour, we had Montana's senior senator, Jon Tester, on the show, who addressed the president's racist rhetoric about several Democratic congresswomen. Is it okay to say nothing? Is that enough? At this point, should your Republican counterpart and all Republicans stand up and say something today?
Well, I mean, look, unless you like racism, it absolutely should stand up.
Helena. Joining us now, the mayor of Helena, Montana Democrat Wilmot Collins. He's a former Liberian War refugee, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is now running for the U.S. Senate seat held by Republican Steve Daines. Also with us, professor of history at Tulane University, Walter Isaacson is with us as well. Joe?
Let's start first. Mayor, tell us, why are you running for the Senate? And what should your opponent be saying right now about the president's chance of sending a United States Congresswoman, quote, back to where she came from?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm running because right now Montana has one senator representing Montana. The other senator is part of the executive branch. I'm running because the senator that's supposed to be representing us is not representing us. He's not. He does not know the people of Montana. I've been traveling the state, and that is the one constant I hear. We have not interacted with our senator in 2 years. The only time we see him when we go on Facebook, and that's not how you should govern. And of course, right now I'm calling on Senator Daines to apologize for just wholeheartly agreeing to what the president said. I think that is way below the pale when that's not what the people of Montana are looking for. They're looking for a senator who will represent them and have an independent mind. That's what they're looking for. And that's why I think I can run. I'm running, and that's why I'm going to win.
Mr. Mayor, it's Jonathan Lemire. You have a remarkable personal story. You're a refugee of the Liberian Civil War, and now a naval reservist here in the United States. Talk to us a little bit about what you see with this administration, how they are treating refugees and those seeking asylum. There's movement to really toughen the regulations at the southern border and elsewhere. How much of that is going to inform what you hope to do were you to be elected?
You see, the thing here is people that are seeking asylum, we have to get it straight. They're not breaking the law. Our law says come to a port of entry. And so when they're coming to the port of entry, they're seeking asylum. Don't get me wrong. No Democrat wants an open border like the talking points that are being put out there. It's important that we acknowledge our rules and regulations and laws and abide by them. We're a law-abiding country. And when I get to the Senate, the first thing I will try to do is try to bring civility, because I'm not foolhardy to think that we are going to be able to work with each other without being civil to each other. So civility is primary, because if you're to do the people's job, if you're to work for the people of Montana, you have to cross party line and work for the people of Montana. And that would be my first act, and that's what I'm going to try to do, because I won't be able to pass anything if I don't work with the other side.
Mr. Mayor, it's Willie Geist. It's great to have you on the show this morning. As Jonathan said, you're a refugee from the Liberian Civil War who came to Helena, Montana for your own safety and for the safety of your family. Also a refugee from a different country, Somalia, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Last night, the President of the United States led chants in that room in North Carolina of send her back. I trust you heard that different probably from anybody at this table heard that. What did you hear in those chants last night?
That's the dog whistle. It was sad that we are at that level. Like our former First Lady said, when they go low, we go high. But it's sad to start telling Americans to go back. If that's the case, this country will be empty. Because and for Senator Daines to pick that up and re-echo it, knowing that I am his opponent and going to be taking his seat, it says a lot. The dog whistle continues. And it's sad. We should never be going that. Instead, we should be trying to get the country together. This country has never been this divided.
Yeah.
Mayor Wilmot Collins, thank you so much for being on the show this morning, and good luck to you. Thank you.
Walter
Thank you. I appreciate
Isaacson,
it.
thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.